So I welcome everyone to the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Let us resume our study of Canto 8, Chapter 19. Lord Vamanadeva begs charity from Bali Maharaj. Let us begin with Mangalacharana. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namasrishtam Manumapi Sachi Putramatra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Rupurim Mathurim Goshtavatim राधा कुंडं गिरिवरमहो राधिका माधवासां प्राप्तो यस्य प्रतितकृपया श्रीगुरुं तं नतोऽस्मि कृष्णादन्यमजानत क्षणमपि स्वप्नेऽपि विश्वेश्वरे तस्मिन् भक्तिमहैतुकीं विदधतो हृत्काय वाग्भि सदा श्रीलान् सद्गुणपुञ्ज केलिनिलयान् प्रेमावतारानहं वन्दे भागवतानिमाननुलभम् मूर्ध्ना निपत्यक्षितौ आजानुलम्बितभुजौ कनकावदातौ सङ्कीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजभरौ युगधर्मपालौ वंदे जगत्प्रियकरौ करुणावतारौ जयतां सुरतौ पंगोर मम मंदमतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदाम्भोजौ राधा मदन मोहनौ नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। चलयसि विक्रमणे बलिमद्भुतवामना पदनखनीरजनित जनपावना केशवधृता वामन रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप गदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणाम्। Hare Krishna. So let us briefly review what we have been discussing so far. So we have seen how Aditi strictly followed the Payavrata process and how Lord Vishnu appears before her and how he reveals his plan to Aditi and how he assures Aditi that he would favor her by becoming her son, and how Lord Vishnu enters Aditi's womb and Brahma offering prayers to Lord Vishnu, appearance of Lord Vamana, sacred thread ceremony of Lord Vamanadeva, and how Vamanadeva enters Bali Maharaj sacrificial arena and how Bali Maharaj welcomes Vamanadeva with great respect, and how Bali Maharaj requests Vamanadeva to take from him anything that he wanted. And we have also seen how Vamanadeva very beautifully reciprocates with Bali Maharaj by praising Bali Maharaj and his dynasty, and how Vamanadeva begs for 3 steps of land, upon which Bali Maharaj actually says that he is not aware of his self-interest and he is not asking charity as per Bali Maharaj's stature. So Vamanadev speaks on the principles of satisfaction, and after which Bali Maharaj agrees to give charity of 3 pieces of land to Vamanadev. And now we have seen how Shukracharya is advising Bali Maharaj. Let us resume from where we stopped yesterday. So we have seen that Shukracharya is basically very, very insecure. Because although he is a pious person, although he is a Brahmana, he is more attached to the Karmakanda section of the Vedas, and he was a Brahmana of the priestly class. He was not a Vaishnava. So therefore, he felt that Bali Maharaj, he understood, although he understood that Vamanadeva is the Supreme Lord, the one who has come to beg 3 pieces of land from Bali, he is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, he had a reservation in surrendering to him. That is Shukracharya's insecurity. Although the Supreme Lord is present before Shukracharya, still he did not feel the necessity to surrender. And he instructed his disciple Bali Maharaj also in a similar way. He felt that Bali's promise would cause havoc not only to Bali Maharaj but also to the family of Shukracharya, because the family of Shukracharya was maintained by Bali Maharaj. So he was a Smarta Brahmana who was more interested in receiving remuneration from his disciples. He had faith in the Vedas, but not in the purpose of the Vedas. That is why, although he saw the Supreme Lord standing before him, still he did not feel a need to actually surrender to the Supreme Lord. And he was actually, now today, in today's verses, we will see how he is speaking on certain principles, but they are lesser dharma. The highest dharma is one sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. The highest dharma is actually surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Savai pumsham paro dharmo yatho bhakti radokshaje ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. So what is the highest dharma? The highest dharma is actually when one surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. So therefore, Shukracharya continues. He says, Kramatogam padaikena dvitiyena divam vibho kamchakayena mahata tarti yasya kuto gati. Then he says, Vamanadeva will occupy the 3 worlds with 1 step. And then with the 2nd step, he will occupy everything in the outer space. And then he will expand his universal body to occupy everything. What will you offer him the 3rd step? So Shukracharya knows. Shukracharya knows that the person who is present there is the Supreme Lord. But still he does not feel the necessity to surrender to the Supreme Lord. He feels that following the lower dharmas is correct, although the Supreme Lord is present. So he says, where will you offer him the 3rd step? This is because Shukracharya could not understand the dealings between the Supreme Lord and his pure devotee. Shukracharya does not, he is not a devotee, at least as per the description given here. He could not understand how the reciprocation happens between the Supreme Lord and the devotee. He was trying to speculate as per his calculation. He was trying to materially calculate everything. He was saying with 1 step, Vamanadeva is actually going to take away all the 3 worlds. And with the 2nd step, he is going to occupy all the outer space. And where you have promised him 3 steps, where are you going to give him the 3rd step? Because he does not understand why Vamanadeva has come. I mean, his only understanding is that Vamanadeva has come to snatch away everything from Bali Maharaj. But he does not understand what Vamanadeva is going to give Bali Maharaj. He knew that he is going to lose something. Of course, he is going to lose. But when we lose something, when we give something to the Supreme Lord, we are never bereft. In fact, when we give something to the Supreme Lord, when we give some charity to the Supreme Lord, what happens is we are benefited because all the property actually belongs to the Supreme Lord. This consciousness Shukracharya did not have. This understanding Shukracharya did not have. Shukracharya knew that Bali Maharaj, Vamanadeva has come to Bali Maharaj to take away everything. But he does not know what Vamanadeva is going to give Bali Maharaj. That is more important. Rather than, if I give everything, see how he is speaking here. Although the Supreme Lord is there, he is saying, where will you offer him the third step? Although actually Lord is very, very concerned about the calculation. No, we see finally Bali Maharaj offers his head for the third step in the coming chapters. So he speaks about Bali's promise. He says, he told Bali that Vamanadeva would occupy all the three worlds with his first step, and he would occupy all the outer space with his second step. And then he's asking, how would Bali cater for the third step? Now, this, how Bali is going to cater for the third step, that, and how the Lord is actually going to reciprocate with Bali Maharaj, this Shukracharya does not understand because he is more attached to Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. He is more attached to sense gratification. These things, Janma Karma Chame Divyam Evam Yo Veti Tatvata Tyaktva Devam Punarjanma Naiti Mameti Suvarjuna. These transcendental pastimes of the Lord, only a devotee will be able to understand. The other person will not be able to understand. Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavrita. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna will not reveal himself to a person who is not his devotee. So therefore, by materialistic calculations, all that Shukracharya could understand was that he has promised, Vamanadeva has come to take away the possessions of Bali Maharaj, and Bali Maharaj has given a promise now. Now what is going to happen to Bali? Because that is all his understanding was. By materialistic calculations, Shukracharya thought that Bali Maharaj would never be able to keep his promise to Lord Vamanadeva. After all, one must understand that who are we to give charity to the Lord? When we give whatever we have to the Lord, then is the Lord simply going to take away everything? No, he is actually going to give himself completely. This part he is not able to understand. So all that he could understand was how his body was to be maintained. Now Vamanadeva is going to take away everything. Now how his body is going to be maintained? Because he is thinking that Bali Maharaj is his maintainer, or he is thinking that I am able to maintain my body, and because of all these positions, and if these positions are taken away, how am I going to be maintained? That is what he is thinking, Shukracharya. But the reality is that Supreme Lord is the maintainer of Bali Maharaj, Supreme Lord only is the maintainer of Shukracharya, and Supreme Lord is only the maintainer of all of us. And whatever is present here, it all belongs to the Supreme Lord only. Isha Vasyam Idam Sharvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat. Everything, animate and inanimate, actually belongs to the Supreme Lord. He is the maintainer. He is the Poshaka. He is the person who is actually maintaining everyone. But when a person does not understand the purpose of the Veda, when a person does not take to devotional service, then he is unable to understand. The more he takes to devotional service, the more he is actually relieved from the influence of three modes. And the more he is relieved from the influence of three modes, he will be able to understand who is the controller of these three modes. So the more a person does not take to devotional service, the more he is under the influence of three modes. And the more he is under the influence of three modes, he thinks that I am the doer. Now here Shukracharya, he is actually very agitated. He is very agitated that all his material opulence is going to go. Bali Maharaj's material opulence is going to go means even his material opulence is going to go. And his material facilities is going to go away. He feels that all his material facilities are going to go away. And now, when all these material facilities go away, how do I maintain this body? Because he is in a consciousness that I am the body. He is still in a consciousness that I am the body. Because he is still under the influence of the three modes, although he is a pious Brahmana. If you give everything to the Lord, then won't the Lord maintain you? And until now, who has been maintaining us? Until now, only the Lord has been maintaining us. So this understanding is there only by a person who takes to the process of devotional service with faith in the Lord. Then that person is able to come out of the clutches of the three modes. The more one is under the clutches of the three modes, the more one thinks that one is the doer. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. So he thinks that I am the doer because I am the maintainer of, I am this body. This is the main misconception. When one does not take to devotional service in this human form of life, then the more one takes to devotional service, the more one is freed from the misconception that he is the body. And the more one does not take to, and when one does not take to devotional service, the more one is implicated. Already we have got this body because we have been rebellious and we wanted to enjoy separately from the Lord. And even here, if we do not make use of this human form of life, which is compared to a boat in this material existence, because in that boat, you can actually cross this ocean of material existence. That is the purpose of human form of life. Even after achieving this human form of life, if we do not make utilization of this human form of life to achieve the highest purpose of life, then what is the use? The more one is going to be implicated in the bodily conception of life. And when one is in the bodily conception of life, one is always anxious because he thinks that he is the doer. So Shukracharya here did not know how the Lord actually protects his devotee. So Lord's reciprocation, how Lord actually protects his devotee. He could see only one part. He could see only that Vamanadeva is going to take away everything, and he cannot imagine a life without these material opulences because he has become so much obsessed. He has become so much obsessed with the bodily conception. When one becomes so much obsessed with the bodily conception, then the more one is actually obsessed with bodily conception, the more one is filled with fear. You know from where this fear comes? This fear comes when the more one is bodily conscious, the more one is fearful. In fact, Krishna mentions this as the first quality, the first divine quality in Bhagavad Gita. Abhayam sattva samshuddhir jnana yoga vyavasthiti. In the 16th chapter, the first quality of a person is Abhayam. The first quality of a devotee, the first divine quality is called Abhayam. And how that Abhayam comes? Bhayam means fear. Abhayam means fearlessness. When one understands that one is an eternal servant of the Lord, when one understands that he has come to this material world because he has been rebellious of the Supreme Lord, and that is why he is put into material existence. And when one understands, particularly in the human form of life, only this is possible, when one understands that to become a devotee of the Lord and to go back home, back to Godhead, is my actual purpose. And when one conducts his life accordingly by practicing devotional service, only that person is actually fearless. Because he knows, anyway, one day or other I am going to die. Anyway, one day or other, these opulences, which Shukracharya is actually fearful of, anyway it is going to go. Anyway, one day or other, our life is going to go. All our wealth, either the wealth will leave us or we will leave the wealth. That is going to happen definitely for one day. If not today, tomorrow. So anyway, it is perishable. So this he does not know. He thinks that that is eternal. That is only protecting me. My wealth is protecting me. My post is protecting me. My possessions are protecting me. And who am I? I am the body. This is the problem with bodily conception. And when I am engaged in devotional service, the more I come out of the influence of the three modes, and the more I understand that I am the soul, I am the servant, I am the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, and my purpose is to go back home, back to Godhead, to the Supreme Lord, and it is the Supreme Lord who is actually maintaining me. Of course, others are all instruments. Others are all instruments, but ultimately the maintenance is coming from the Supreme Lord only. So he is my protector. Rakhe Krishna Mare Krishna Rakhe Ke. He is my protector. He is my well-wisher. So what is going to happen? Everything is under his control. Even a blade of grass does not move without the Lord's control, without the Lord's will. So anyway, one day my possessions is going to go, even my body is going to go one day. So why I should be so much attached to this? And let me become attached to the Lord. So that is the conception of a person who is a devotee. So a devotee will risk everything in his possession for the service of the Lord, but he is always protected and he is never defeated. Because whatever the devotee possesses, he understands that he is only the caretaker. The actual proprietor is the Supreme Lord. He is simply the caretaker, that's all. So how does a caretaker be? A caretaker, a very good caretaker, he takes care of somebody's possession very carefully. But when time comes, that person, the real caretaker, whoever is the real caretaker, when time comes, he is ready to give up. Suppose a friend comes to us with his very good laptop and he asks us, okay, I'm going out for some days. You please keep this laptop safely with you. Then what do? We keep the laptop very safely. What are we supposed to do? We keep the laptop very safely in a locker, and when he comes, we give it to him. One should not become attached to the laptop. Similarly, one should not become attached to all these material possessions because all these things have been given to us. They have been entrusted in our care for a small period of time. For example, our children. One should not be neglectful towards children, but one must understand that my child is actually a child of the Supreme Lord. I am also a child of the Supreme Lord. He is also a child of the Supreme Lord. But just in this lifetime, he has been entrusted in my care. So let me take care of him very nicely because it is the responsibility given by Lord to me. And when time comes, I must not be very attached to him because ultimately the Lord is only protecting him. His ultimate father is the Lord only. Similarly, for all our dependents and for all our relations, they have been entrusted in our care. And we have also been entrusted in someone's care for this particular lifetime. So what is the point in getting so much attached? One should be affectionate. One should be responsible. One should not be neglectful, but one should not be attached. So a devotee risks everything in possession for the service of the Lord. And such a devotee is always protected and he is never defeated. Ananyas chintayanto man yejana paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. But to those who worship me with devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Nishtam te narake manye yapradatu pratishrutam pratishrutasya yonisha pratipadayitum bhavan. Now Shukracharya says, you will certainly be unable to fulfill your promise. And I think that because of this inability, your eternal residence will be in hell. See, Shukracharya is filled with anxiety. Already, Shukracharya is filled with anxiety, very deep anxiety. He is thinking in so many terms. He is thinking in terms of morality. He's saying, where will you give him the third step in the previous verse? Now he is saying, certainly you will not be able to fulfill your promise. That's all right. But who is the person there? The person is the Supreme Lord. Why should we think that we will be perfect towards the Supreme Lord? When the Supreme Lord, when we give something to the Supreme Lord, is it so much under the subjugation of moral conduct? No. So he's saying you will be unable to fulfill your promise. As though, we have a feeling that who is the creator of all this morality? Who is the creator? He is the Supreme Lord is the creator. And when Supreme Lord himself comes, how much we can, you will certainly be able to unable to fulfill your promise. So if you cannot fulfill your promise, you will go to hell, he's saying. And I think because of this inability, your eternal residence will be hell. So everything he is calculating materially. What will happen to you? You will be deprived of all your opulences. Where will you give him the third step? And then how will you maintain yourself? And then you will be unable to fulfill your promise. He is not able to understand what feeling the Lord has towards the devotee who is ready to give everything to him. That he is not able to understand. And he is saying, because you are unable to fulfill your promise, you will have to reside in hell forever. And even by giving everything, you will go to hell. So better, whatever it is, you are going to go to hell. You are anyway unable to fulfill your promise, therefore you will go to hell. Even by giving everything, definitely you will go to hell. Because where will you give him the third step? So whatever it is, you are anyway going to hell. So better, not to give anything and you enjoy this world. That is Shukracharya's statement. So much of logic is there. And why is all this logic coming? Because Shukracharya or a person who is like Shukracharya, he is very, very addicted to sense enjoyment. When you are addicted to sense enjoyment, so much of logic you frame. You come up with so much of justification and logic in order to enjoy. So deep is the desire for sense enjoyment in a conditioned soul. It's for all of us. So deep is the desire that, we make all justifications to say why what we are doing is correct when we want to enjoy our senses. We make so much. Controlled mind is the greatest enemy. Controlled mind is the greatest friend. Uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy. You know one thing, justifying mind is also the greatest enemy. We justify. So he is justifying why Bali Maharaj should actually not give charity. Anyway, you are going to go to hell only. So better, whatever time you are there, you better do not give anything and you enjoy this world. So much, so deep is the desire for sense gratification in a conditioned soul. So much is one's misidentification with one's body. So much one has faith that if my senses are gratified, I will be happy. So this is the misconception. Nataddanam prashamsante yena vrittir vipadyate danam yajnastapa karma loke vrittimato yatha. So he says, learned scholars do not praise the charity which endangers one's own livelihood. Charity, sacrifice, austerity, and fruitive activities, yajna, dana, tapa, karma, are possible for one who is competent to earn his livelihood properly, and they are not possible for one who cannot maintain himself. So all the yajna, dana, tapa, karma are actually meant for only those persons who are able to earn their livelihood properly. Now he is saying to Bali Maharaj that you are going to give some charity which is going to endanger your own livelihood. What he is saying is correct. When we give charity, we must actually, when we give charity to the Supreme Lord, in general, when one gives charity, one must give charity, in a reasonable way. One should not give charity in such a way that one's own livelihood is endangered. But here, who is asking the charity? That is important. Here, charity is asked by Vamanadev, who is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when that personality is asking charity, in fact, everything belongs to him only. We are not giving anything. When we give something to the Supreme Lord, what are we giving? We are just setting aside our false ego. That's all. Then we are giving to the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, is the Lord in need of anything? He is served by, thousands and thousands of Lakshmis. Lakshmi Sahasra Sadasham Brahmasevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bachami. He is served by thousands and thousands of goddesses of fortune in the spiritual world. What does he require from us? But when one gives to the Supreme Lord, what happens is one is benefited. Because one enhances in devotional service. When one gives to the Supreme Lord, one's devotional service is enhanced. So therefore, he says here that your livelihood is endangered. Yes, one must be careful. I mean, one must calculate how much charity to give. But such a calculation must not be done when the Supreme Lord is the person to whom we are giving charity. That is not charity at all. We are just giving away our false ego. If we give some charity to the Supreme Lord, we are actually giving, setting aside our false ego, and we are acknowledging that, it's a gesture of love when we give to the Supreme Lord. So therefore, all of us must give charity in our own capacity, according to our own capacity. We cannot imitate Bali Maharaj for sure, but one must give charity as per one's capacity, definitely for one's own spiritual benefit. Now the festival of Janmashtami is coming. So all of us, without fail, must definitely give some charity as per our capacity. Lord is watching all these things. Lord is seeing how much we are giving, but Lord is also seeing how much we are holding back for ourselves, right? I may not be able to see, or somebody else may not be able to see, but the Supreme Lord is there in everyone's heart. He is watching how much this person is giving, and he is also watching how much this person is holding back. He is the knower of everything, past, present, future. He is present in everyone's heart as the super soul. So, for our own benefit, all of us must give some charity. So therefore, he says that what he's saying is correct only, Shukracharya, in one sense. But here, the context is that the person to whom Bali Maharaj has promised charity is Vamanadev, who is none other than the Supreme Lord, who is actually the maintainer of everybody in this universe. So Shukracharya here, he says that livelihood is more important than charity. He says that charity that endangers one's livelihood is not praiseworthy, and yajna, dana, tapa and karma are possible for only one who is competent to earn his livelihood properly. Now, whatever charity Bali Maharaj is going to give, that is going to endanger his very livelihood. Dharmaya yashaserthaya kamaya svajanaya cha panchadha vibhajan vittam iha mutracha modate. Therefore, one who is in full knowledge should divide his accumulated wealth in 5 parts: for religion, for reputation, for opulence, for sense gratification, and for the maintenance of his 5 family members. Such a person is happy in this world and in the next. This is also correct, what Shukracharya is saying. He should divide his accumulated wealth in 5 parts: for religion, reputation, opulence, sense gratification, and maintenance of family members. But what is the highest religion? What is the highest religion? Highest religion is surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In fact, whatever Shukracharya is saying, they are all lower principles of religion. What is the higher principle of religion? And what is the highest principle of religion? Savai pumsham paro dharmo. What is this paro dharmo? Many dharmas are there. But what is the highest dharma? Yato bhakti radokshaje. What is bhakti? Bhakti is the highest dharma. And what is the very important part of bhakti? Anukulyasya sankalpaha pratikulyasya varjanam. Okay, so Shukracharya says that one who is in full knowledge should divide his accumulated wealth in 5 parts. And such a person is happy in this world and in the next. Again, he is thinking only about sense gratification. Because the desire to remain happy in this world and to remain happy in the next life, to remain happy in this world, in this world and in the next, probably may go to higher planetary systems, but either ways you are going to take birth again. So the desire to remain happy in this lifetime and the desire to remain happy in the next lifetime, that is also a material desire only. So whatever Shukracharya is saying is, in one sense, it's a lower dharma. But what is the higher dharma here? The higher dharma is the Supreme Lord himself is present here before Bali Maharaj. Now Bali Maharaj might say, if I have something to give and still say I have nothing, how can I avoid the sin of lying? Still I will be implicated in the sin of lying because I have something to give, and if I say I have nothing, now even if I go back on my promise, still I am lying, right? So therefore, atrapi bahvarchairgitam shrudume shurasattama satyamomiti yat proktam yannetyahanritam hitat. One might argue that since you have already promised, how can you refuse? O best of the demons, just take from me the evidence of Bahvara Shruti, which says that a promise is truthful preceded by the word Om and untruthful if not. Satyam pushpaphalam vidyat atma vrikshasya giyate vrikshe jivati tannasyad anritam moolam atmanaha. The Vedas enjoin that the factual result of the tree of the body is the good fruits and flowers derived from it. But if the bodily tree does not exist, there is no possibility of factual fruits and flowers. Even if the body is based on untruth, there cannot be factual fruits and flowers without the help of the bodily tree. Tadyatha vriksha unmula sushyat yudvartate chirat evam nashtan ritasadya atma sushyena samshaya. So when a tree is uprooted, it immediately falls down and begins to dry up. Similarly, if one doesn't take care of the body, which is supposed to be untruth, even if the body is untruth, he says one must take care of it. If similarly one doesn't take care of the body, which is supposed to be untruth, in other words, if the untruth is uprooted, the body undoubtedly becomes dry. So the meaning is that without the help of this body, there cannot be factual fruits and flowers. And even if the body is based on untruth, still the body is so very important. That is what Shukracharya is saying. He also understands that this body is temporary, but he's saying that still it is very, very important, because only when the body is there, there can be fruits and flowers. So that is so much importance he's actually attributing to the body, although he knows that the Supreme Lord is present before. So much he is addicted to the bodily conception of life, although he is very religious. So in order to make it clear that by truthful words the body cannot survive, now Shukracharya, he explains the bad qualities of truth. You see, he is going to explain how truth is bad, and the good qualities of lying also he is going to explain. He says, Paragriktam apurnam va aksharam yattadom iti yatkinchit om nibruyat om iti bruyat tena richeta vaipuman bhikshave sarvam om kurvan nalam kamena chatmane. He says, the utterance of the word Om signifies separation from one's monetary assets. In other words, by uttering this one word, one becomes free. By uttering this word, one becomes free from attachment to money, because his money is taken away from him. To be without money is not very satisfactory. For in that position, you cannot fulfill one's desires. In other words, by using the word Om, one becomes poverty-stricken. Especially when one gives charity to a poor man or beggar, one remains unfulfilled in self-realization and in sense gratification. So he says that without money, one cannot fulfill one's desires. So money is so very important. So he is not against performing religion, but he is more materially attached. Whereas what is the highest religion? The religion in its highest form is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he says, to be without money is not very satisfactory. For in that position, one cannot fulfill one's desires. So these are all one level of dharma, actually. So now, and he says, the utterance of Om signifies separation from one's wealth. When one gives everything to a beggar, one remains unfulfilled in self-realization. Atahaitat purnamapyatmam yache netyanartam vacha sarvam netyanritam bruyat sadushkirti svasanvrita. So the safe course is to say no. So please say no. Although it is falsehood, it protects one completely. He is thinking that if the body is preserved and if our wealth is preserved, that is protection. Now by saying no, Bali Maharaj is going to retain his material opulences. So he is saying the safe thing is to say no. Although it is a lie, it protects you. You say a lie, but for what? Your saying a lie only to protect yourself. So what is wrong in that? Although it is falsehood, it protects one completely. It draws the compassion of others towards oneself, and it gives one full facility to collect money from others for oneself. Nonetheless, if one always pleads that he has nothing, he is condemned, for he is a dead body while living, or while still breathing, he should be killed. So he's saying him, so please say no, so that you will be protected. Now, what is his idea of protection? His idea of protection is that if my material opulences are there, then I am protected. If I am able to have all my money and my land and my fame and my beauty, everything with me, then I am protected. If I have facilities to enjoy my senses, then I am protected. Is this real protection? Of course, to some extent, for one who is in bodily consciousness, this is protection. For one who is in bodily consciousness, because he thinks that he is the body, because he is under the influence of the three modes, because he has not taken to devotional service, because he is under the influence of three modes, he thinks that all this is protection. He thinks that, his wife is his protection, his children are his protection, and then he thinks that his money is protecting him, his wife is protecting him, his children are protecting him, his insurance is protecting him. This is a false sense of security, actually. To some extent, it is okay. To the extent you are bodily conscious, it is okay. But who is the actual protector? The actual protector is the Supreme Lord. So there is a very famous song. That famous song is in Tamil, actually. It says, Veedu varai uravu, veedi varai manevi, kaadu varai pillai, kadasi varai yaaro. So that's actually a song from a very old Tamil movie. It says, Veedu varai uravu. That means all these relations are there only until your house. After you are dead, your dead body, all the relatives will come to see. Only up to your house, those relatives will be there. Veedi varai manevi. That means then your dead body is taken outside the house. Your wife will not even accompany you to the crematorium. Right? Kaadu varai pillai. That means until the crematorium, only your son will come. And who is going to come with you? Kadasi varai yaaro, it says. Veedu varai uravu. All these relations, whatever we think is actually protecting us, like Shukracharya is thinking that all these material opulences is actually Bali Maharaj's material opulences are protecting Bali Maharaj and protecting him also. But who is the actual protection? But see, the way we think that our relatives, our money, all these things are protecting, once you are dead, when the soul leaves the body, when the dead body is lying, the relatives are there only up to your house. They will come, they will see your body, they will put some flowers, and then they will go away. That's all. All these relations about whom we are so proud of. We are so proud of our relations, our friends circle. All these people, when you are dead, until where can they accompany you? Maximum they will come to your house to see your dead body. They will put some flowers and they will just leave. That's all. And your wife, one is so attached to one's wife. Until where can your wife accompany you? Your wife can accompany you only until the street. When your dead body is being carried, she can come only up to the street. In Vedic culture, women are not supposed to come to the crematorium. And then you are so proud of your sons. Until where can your son accompany you? Your son can accompany you only till your crematorium. That's all. He will do the final rites. That's all. Then when the body is gone completely, who is accompanying you? That is Paramatma, the super soul. Upadrishtva, Anumanta. He is always present in our body. He is always present with us. The super soul is always present with us. So who is the ultimate protector? The ultimate protector is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. He is the ultimate protector. But when we are in bodily consciousness, we think that everything, my body and everything related to my body is actually protecting me. Because we think that we are the body. That is the problem. We think that we are the body and all these things are protecting me. So now he says, what are the good qualities of a lie? Telling a lie and refusing to give protects one's wealth and attract others' wealth. But he also says, one who always lies, he becomes infamous. So he's saying, see, I'm not telling you to lie always, but in this situation, please lie. If one always speaks lies, he becomes infamous, definitely. But in this situation, please tell this lie for your own protection. Because Shukracharya, as per Shukracharya, if Bali Maharaj's wealth is there with him, that is his protection. And when can one lie? That also he says. Strishu narma vivahe cha vrityarte prana sankate go brahmanarte himsayam nanritam sya jugut sitam. So when can one tell lies? In flattering a woman to bring her under control, one can tell a lie. In joking, one can tell a lie. In a marriage ceremony, one can tell a lie. In earning one's livelihood, one can tell a lie. When one's life is in danger, in protecting cows in Brahminical culture, or in protecting a person from an enemy's hand, falsity is never condemned. So in these situations, Shukracharya is saying one can tell lies. So if there are any questions, we can take up.
Prabhuji, in this slide, I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji?
Yes.
Charity with that endangers one livelihood is not praiseworthy.
Pardon?
Charity that endangers one's livelihood is not praiseworthy, right?
Yes.
But in Bhagavatam or in Bhagavad Gita, they are told that you have to give at least 50% of the charity. So both are not contradictory, yeah? Or it should be relative?
They are not contradictory because, see, you have to, when you give charity,
when we can't complete the livelihood by doing charity of 50%. When we fix the amount 50%, I don't think that may not be sufficient for the person to complete it. Some people, not for everybody, I'm telling.
Yes.
Then this point and that point is something, or it should be whatever possible for you, you give it to Krishna. That's okay. But 50% and this endangers one livelihood is not praiseworthy. These 2 points is okay or correct? What? I don't understand.
See, the highest standard is set by our acharyas. Rupa Goswami says that, 25% you should keep for personal emergency, 25% you should give to your relatives and friends. That is actually advocated by our acharyas. All right. So this is a correct point. The highest standard is actually given by our acharyas. How? Of course, we all need some money for self-preservation, but the highest standard in giving charity is actually explained by our acharyas. How much you should give for charity, how much you should keep for personal emergency, and how much you should give for your relatives and dependents, because they are also looking forward to something from you, right? But here, and of course, if you give 100% to charity without sufficient realization, you can give 100% for charity, but how much realized we are? Right? If you are in complete realization,
it is relative. It is not absolute.
If we,
charity
exactly.
is relative.
Not like that.
Not absolute,
like that.
Right?
Not like that. Let me tell you. Okay. See, acharyas have prescribed a standard. Okay, how much you should keep and how much you should give in charity. All right. The highest standard, if you ask, the highest standard is the standard which is followed by a spotless, pure devotee of the Lord who gives everything to the Supreme Lord.
To the Lord.
Bali Maharaj is actually right.
Okay.
That is the highest standard of charity. Okay.
Okay.
For general people like us, acharyas have prescribed a standard. Okay.
Okay.
But you see, one must act as per one's realization and faith. Okay.
That is what.
Now, one must act as, see, for example, if you do not have sufficient realization, but that does not mean that because I don't have realization, I will not give any charity. Okay, all of us must definitely give some charity. If you are feeling difficult to give, for example, I will tell you, if you are finding it difficult to give, see, for example, there may be somebody who is giving 5,000 rupees per month and he is earning some, say 50,000 rupees per month.
Okay.
If he is, feeling a little inconvenienced by giving more amount, then he should give whatever amount he is able to donate happily. Just for the sake of getting appreciation from few people, he should not, because here the consciousness is more important than the amount.
Correct.
Consciousness is more important than the amount. But still, if he is earning 50,000 per month and if he gives 50 rupees, is it a reasonable charity?
That is not right. That is I accept.
So one
that I
must
accept.
give as per one's situation.
There should be some relative this thing should be there.
And what is that? You are the best person to decide.
Right. This
So
is what I wanted to know.
We have the highest example set by Bali Maharaj here. Point number 1. And we also have
the
standard. We also have the standard given by our acharyas that 25%, you should keep for your family members. I just forgot that formula. I'll just post it in the group. 25% you should give to your family members. 25% you should keep for your personal emergencies. And then, 50% you should give. That is one standard, which is set by our acharyas. But there may be a situation that we are not able to follow that standard also. So whatever standard we are able to follow very happily and in a very Krishna conscious way, we should follow. But that doesn't mean that I'm earning 1 lakh per month and I give 1,000 rupees donation, right? Because because Lord is seeing how much you are giving, but Lord is also seeing how much you are keeping for yourself.
Exactly.
So it's very personal thing. One must be very honest. So for example, you say you are earning 1 lakh rupees per month and suddenly, after hearing my class, you feel like, after hearing about Bali Maharaj, you feel like, I should give everything, and you go and, in a sudden, you are getting some feeling that is good, but in our situation, that feeling doesn't remain for a long time. After the class, that feeling will go, not only for the audience, it may go for me also. So, yeah, so after speaking this class or after hearing from me, I feel a great urge that Bali Maharaj gave everything. So let me give everything. Then I go, I take all my papers of house and everything and I write to the temple. That how long can you, have that consciousness? Tell me. So you should be reasonable. You should know very clearly, you should be very honest to yourself before you give charity. You should be very honest to yourself. Okay, if you're earning 1 lakh per month, can you give 80,000 charity every month? If you give 80,000 charity every month, will you be peaceful? Can you chant peacefully? Hare Krishna. If you give 80,000 per month charity?
No.
So this is a very honest thing, what we are discussing. So how much you are able to give, happily you give, but that does not mean you should give 1,000 per month.
Exactly.
Very good point, Prabhu, actually. So this is a very personal thing. One must very...
Just clarify that.
Understand what are the standards. See, Bali Maharaj, immediately he agrees to give. See, Lord asked Bali Maharaj, Lord asked 3 steps of land from Bali Maharaj. Is Lord going to come before you or me and ask to give everything? No, because Lord also knows what we are. Lord also knows what we are.
Exactly.
Right? So just because Lord is not asking, that does not mean, okay, anyway, Lord is not asking. Anyway, Lord knows what I am. So better I enjoy. That is not correct again.
Exactly.
Right?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes. Thank you for the question. Any other question? But yes, again, correct. One must give charity, and particularly when there are festivals like Janmashtami and all. And it's a very good habit to give monthly charity. Monthly, at least for our working people like us. Every month we should, commit to give some amount of our money, some amount of our earning, because we get salary per month if we are working somewhere. So from that salary, you have to commit to give some portion of it for the service of the Lord. Or you should give some portion of it for service of the Lord, means service of the mission of the Acharya. So you can donate to the temple. It's a very good habit to donate on a monthly basis.
Prabhuji, one more doubt.
Yes.
Now, giving donation for Janmashtami, is it a charity or is it doing some seva?
Pardon?
Like suppose I'm giving for some Chappan Bhog or something like giving
Yes.
donation for charity or for not charity, for Janmashtami or some festivals in the temple. You are telling our name, you are telling our nakshatra and everything, and they're doing some puja and you are giving some money. So is it charity or is it you are getting done some puja on your name?
Yeah. Puja is done so that you feel connected.
No,
And
like,
it's a
for example,
reciprocation
for
given.
Janmashtami they have
It's a
asked,
reciprocation. It
5
is a
to 5,000 for
reciprocation.
this puja, for 10,000 for
Right,
this
right.
puja, something like that they told. Na? Suppose
Yes,
if I give that money, that means I'm giving for the puja. That is my name they're telling na, there to the Lord that I have given such and such amount and
Correct.
for this puja. So I'm giving for the puja. Not the charity where the name should not come at all.
Yeah,
Then
very
what is
good.
the question of charity there?
Therefore, Krishna speaks about charity in 3 modes in Bhagavad Gita 17th chapter. Charity in the mode of goodness, charity in the mode of passion, charity. Charity in the mode of passion is like, the person gives charity. For example, there was a person who gave charity. He donated a fan. Ceiling fan. He donated a ceiling fan to a
Correct.
temple. And then, what happened is he wrote his name on the fan. He painted his name on the fan. This fan has been on the fan blade, so that it is seen to everyone. Now, what happened when a Bhagavatam class or a Bhagavad Gita class was going on in the temple, and it was very hot, so they turned on the fan. So this person, he's coming and he's telling, please turn off the fan, please turn off the fan. Then they asked him, why do you want us to turn off the fan? So that my name will be visible to everyone. He donated a fan. He donated a fan, but he didn't want us to turn on the fan because he wanted his name to be visible. What is the use of the charity? Right? So there are different, see, when devotees actually perform some puja or some archana on your name, it is the devotee's kindness, that's all, for whatever charity you have given. But to expect something, that means you are in the mode of passion. That is called charity in the mode of passion. That is comes in Bhagavad Gita. Charity in the mode of passion. Charity in the mode of goodness is there. Charity in the mode of passion is there. In the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it comes. Okay? To expect something,
Exactly.
if you are expecting something, then it comes under the mode of passion. That means you will not get the highest benefit from that charity. You will get some benefit,
Exactly.
but it will not be the highest benefit because you are having your motivation also.
Exactly.
Right?
Correct. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other questions or comments, or anyone wants to share anything? Thank you all for your participation. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.